One more topic, and we do it swiftly if we can, please. Andrew Rudd.
Is a voluntary ID card scheme workable or worthwhile?
This is the Home Secretary's announced the government have no plans now to make ID cards compulsory, which they did intend to do. They're now voluntary, so you don't have to have one. You can have one if you want one. If you think nobody will know who you are, you can carry one around and say, this is who I am, I suppose. Harriet Harman, very briefly, if you would. I mean, is it workable? Is it worthwhile?
This is what the situation is on ID cards now, and the answer, of course, is yes. But the first point is, for foreign nationals, it's not voluntary. Foreign nationals having visas to this country have to have biometric ID cards, and that is working very well. And it means that some people who are perfectly entitled to come here, instead of actually being held up whilst their identity is endlessly checked, it can actually be done very swiftly, and they can grant visas much more quickly and effectively and reliably. So we're having biometric ID
but we're thinking,
cards,
I think, not about foreigners with this.
For foreign nationals.
I think the implications
then there is the question of the air side, which is the airport people working on the side where the aeroplanes are at two airports, which there was going to be a pilot scheme. No, we haven't. What we've done is Manchester...
You've dropped plans to make them compulsory?
Well, I'm just telling you what we're actually doing,
I'm just
David.
telling you what your government said they're doing.
Well, you know, I'm here to... Basically, the idea is that to improve airport security, and we were going to have two pilots, one in Manchester and one in City Airport, London, and there was objections from the staff about it being imposed in the airport. So what we've said is that we will cooperate with them if the airport managers and the people who work in the airports want to introduce a system of ID cards. And if you're a pilot who's got 10 different ID cards...
Sorry, you're way off beam. We're actually talking about ID. The idea was we would all have to carry ID cards. It's now no longer the idea.
Oh, look, sorry, David, I've got to just finish this off.
We'll be here all night.
No, well, sorry. But that was not... No, the idea, we said we would do foreign nationals, then we would do airside, and we said if it was going to be extended to British citizens who weren't working in airports, we wouldn't do that without we actually took it to the House of Commons and had a vote. And that it remains the same as it ever was.
Ian Duncan-Smith, in 30 seconds, if you would.
I think it's an expensive and complete total waste of time.
Okay. David Laws, yours in 30 seconds.
It is workable but utterly potty. Why we would want to be spending £5 to £10 billion on an ID card scheme which is now going to exclude the very people who it was designed to be tracking down, the criminals and the terrorists who presumably will opt not to have an ID card. I do not know.
Okay.
And this... They might volunteer.
Okay, that's right. 30 seconds.
Don't be fooled by this spin. The identity database on which all your details will be recorded continues to exist. Parliament can make identity cards compulsory in an afternoon if it wants to. The threat has not gone, and it will completely change our way of life. We will be presumed guilty instead of being presumed innocent, and the state will be much more powerful. Get the database scrapped, you'll be getting somewhere.
Yours for 30 seconds, Jarvis Cocker.
I think the more you try and control people, the more you rub their backs up and the more they want to act up. So it's a silly thing. I was at Glastonbury this last weekend. A lot of people, unsupervised, they all had good fun, didn't kill each other.
Very brief point.
I think it's just another U-turn by the current government, and I do think it's an unnecessary expense, but it's another U-turn. It's just outrageous that we keep seeing this.
I see. You think they should stick with it. And you, madam, up there, very briefly, if you would.
If Ronnie Biggs opts to have an ID card, will you then let him out of prison?
Okay, right. Now, I'm going to go... Yeah, go on, quickly.
Answer this question. How many people here tonight will volunteer to have a card? I won't.
How many people will volunteer to have an ID card? 2, 3, 4. Well, that'll be good. I'm going
to have a biometric passport, and if you have one of those, then you don't need an ID card.
I want to get to this question from Simon. I want to get to this question from Simon Bramall just before we close, for very obvious reasons. Simon Bramall.
Do the panel agree that media coverage of Michael Jackson's death has been over the top?
And of course, I want to hear what Jarvis Cocker has to say about this.
Well, yes. I I've experienced this because I'm linked to him for a certain incident in the dim and distant past. Of course, as soon as I won't go into it. Although you described it incorrectly earlier, I never mooned anybody in my whole life.
No, moon was a vulgar description of turning your bottom and waving.
Yes, okay.
Yes, right. At
So
Jackson during the Brit Awards.
So obviously my phone went mad with texts and old people wanting me to talk about it. Not that I particularly have any insight into it, but I think if there's a tragedy about the whole thing, I would say that's that, you know, if he'd have kept making great records like he did in the mid-80s up to now, that would have been great. But for some reason, for the last 20 years, he didn't do that. And for me, that's the tragic part of it. All the personal things and why he ended up not being able to do that, I can't really...
What did you object about in 1996, the British? What was it you disliked about Jackson then?
He was pretending to be Jesus. I mean, I'm not religious, but I think as a performer myself, the idea of someone pretending to have the I don't know if you saw the performance, but the power of healing is just not right. You know, rock stars have got big enough egos without trying to be Jesus, you know. So that was what got my goat, but that was that one particular thing.
Otherwise, as a performer, you thought he was a genius?
Yeah, he invented the moonwalk.
The rest of you are let off the hook, because we've got to stop now, because time's up.